Welcome to another video for WinBidPro version 15 by GDS Estimating. I've been wanting to do this one for a while, and we're going to cover butt glazed systems, or how do we make an elevation have butt glazed vertical joints. So we're assuming that there's no extruded back member, no aluminum mullion for the vertical. It's just simply a silicone joint. So it's easy to do. All we have to do is modify a system, and I can either do that at the framing system level for the master list of frames, or I can do it at the elevation level. So it's the same thing, it just depends on where you want to do it. And if you are going to do it at the framing system level, we recommend copying a system and then modifying the copy so that you don't have to create one from scratch. So keep that in mind if that's what you want to do. And for that, if you create a system in the master list, it'll obviously be there forever, and you can pick it whenever you want to create elevations. In this case, we're just going to work only on this elevation. So the first thing we do is we address the vertical itself. So since that is no longer a mullion that's 2 inches wide, let's say that our silicone joint needs to be a 1/2 inch. So that's going to give us the right drawing and the look on the screen. But the other thing to consider is we need to have continuous head and sills now. So those are no longer interrupted by vertical mullions. So let's zero out the head and sill, and then we need to actually add a profile, that same 2-inch profile, to the receptor areas down here, and we're going to basically assume that those run continuously across, and the silicone joint just runs into those head and sills. So now there's a couple parts to this. There's getting the drawing to draw it right, which means it's going to cut correctly. Then there's the part numbers. So if we're going to have a continuous head and sill and a silicone vertical joint, what we need to do is actually remove the vertical part numbers. So we're going to delete those. We're actually going to delete the vertical because it's going to show that if we do our shop drawings. And then you can add a vertical if you have a drawing somehow of a butt glazed joint, but you can add that just by double clicking here and picking a file. So you can download one and save it and then use that, or if there's one you know of, you can pick it. So the other thing is, for our continuous head and sill, we need to move our parts down to the head receptor, sill receptor area. So these are continuous. Anything up here is going to be interrupted, so we don't want that. So we want all our continuous parts to be down here, which we're doing just by copying and pasting the part numbers. So now we've accounted for the parts to be correct, and we've also accounted for the cutting, the way it cuts. Now the exception is this little 1/8 inch, and I'm going to show you what that means. Normally that's telling the verticals to cut an 1/8 inch off the bottom of the opening, which is like the thickness of your sill receptor, let's say. So we see that the little joint that we have now is going into the subsill, or sill can in this case. So we actually don't want that. We want that to be flush with the top. So we're going to say that we need a 2-inch adjustment from the bottom to shorten that joint that we created to make it line up with the profile of the sill material. So there we have the look we want. We have the continuous sill and we have the continuous head. So the next thing to do is the glass. So before we mess with glass sizing or add daylights and stuff like that, I like to turn on the glass hatching and then also the glass sizes. So the hatching is good because it actually shows us what's going on with the glass in the frame. And we see that the glass is going into the silicone joint here, which we don't want. So in order to fix that, we're going to go back into the framing system, and we're going to zero out the horizontal add daylight. So that means any mid panel of glass, there's no add because the glass isn't going inside the silicone joint. The silicone joint is between the glass. So if we change that right there, we should see just a black gap there. So that means there is no glass in that area. So that's just silicone. And the problem, though, is on the perimeter for the width. The height is still has a glass bite because we didn't change that added daylight. But for the width, we now have no capture on the jambs. So what we need to do to address that is go into the Edit Job Glass window. And first we have to add glass. So let's add glass, and that'll get us glass sizes on the screen too. So I'm just going to pick any old thing here. Let's see if I can pick a 1-inch piece. So we're going to pick that. We're going to add it. So now we've got glass sizes. We just added some anneal glass just for fun. So now we can see what difference is made when we adjust the glass. So there was a 7/8 glass bite. So we need to take half of that, which I believe is 7/16. But let's say that's what it is without me doing the math. So we're actually going to have to adjust the perimeter glass, the left and right panels, and add 7/16 to the width of each one. So we're going to edit job glass, and here's our glass now. So the way to do that is if this was a big job and I had a lot of glass in the first panel for Butt Glazed, I would say I want to work on G1, and that's all the glass in the first panel. So for G1, I'm going to change the size, and I'm going to add 7/16, which now I got to figure out what that is, don't I? So 7/16 is, yeah, 0.4375. So we're going to add that to the width, 0.4375. So now we should see, let's do the same thing while we're at it for the last panel. So that would be 3. I believe, how many panels were there again? Yeah. So that's G3 is the last panel. We're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to add 0.4375 and update that. So we can hit clear filter also to get the whole list back. So now I've adjusted my glass, and I should see a difference in the DLOs here, or the width of the glass. So the daylight opening in the middle panel is 38 1/8. So I see that. The daylight opening is the same for the beginning and last panel, but we've changed our glass to be 38 9/16. So that's the correction we need. Now the catch here is when we do an adjustment to the glass, it's going to kind of center the glass. So if we go back to our layout tab here, we see that there's now a capture here, but we also see that there's capture at the vertical. But that's just the way we're drawing it because we're splitting the difference and adding the 7/16 to both sides of the glass. It doesn't know just to add it to one side. But what matters here is that we've got the right glass size, which we can verify by this dimension here. So we've got the right glass size. The middle panel's correct because there's no added daylight because we've got the 38 1/8. And we're all set for our glass sizes and our cutting, and our part numbers are in the right place. So we should get everything good for a Butt Glazed system. That's it for now. Thanks.